Okay, ready to go. Next step. So obviously I showed you the issue with this thing, and the reason I couldn't get the proper orientation was this third spring, which is supposed to be there like this. That third one on the end is not on the end, so there was no resistance on that lever here, basically underneath, to make sure the pickup bobbin was properly seated tightly against the top of the guitar, but also there was nothing there to give it the necessary resistance so I could get this pickup pushed through at the proper height. If you only have these two, it's fine, but then sometimes you get a whacked out angle, and the only thing that can save it is this third screw. So it's a little bit tricky. There's a reason why they didn't continue this design for long, because it is pretty high maintenance. But first step, in short, is I've got to go to my handy dandy Charlie Christian pickup rescue kit and find a spring. And believe it or not, you go to the hardware store, and I was surprised I found springs that were perfectly suited for this exercise. And so I just bought a random amount of screws. The reason you can't use the same screw every time is because different guitars have different depths of bracing, and so it's a different story. But in short, what I'm going to do is take just about a 1/2 inch screw. I don't need anything terribly long. You definitely don't want anything longer, taller, than it's going to fit through this thing, because when you go back to put this in, you can't have the spring height be any higher than the width of this cutout, otherwise it's not going to fit. So it seems obvious, but I've done that before. So I'll take this one. This one looks like it's a good one. And you don't have to permanently weld it on there. I've had just as easy a time, or much easier time, using some crazy glue and just gluing that guy right on top of the hole, letting it dry properly, and you end up with something like that. I don't know if you can see it, I'm pretty sure you can. So once you have that glued, then we're going to put her back inside. And why won't it go in? Because the bobbin's still on it. Just for the same reason we had to take it off first to take it out, you've got to take it off to put it back in. So I will remove the bobbin carefully, set it to the side, tape it down so it doesn't fall off and ruin my wires. And then this is where you want to get your screws all ready to screw in. Handy dandy needle nose. Grab the blade so you have a good grip on it. Feed the pickup down through the hole, and then that's where those springs just barely clear. Sometimes you have to push them a little bit, and you don't want to get them caught up on the spruce top. All right, so then that goes in, and you still have your bobbin hanging up on top, right? You don't do anything with the bobbin until the very end. And if you don't mind, I'm going to take my rescue kit here and put it to the side because my leg's falling asleep. So grab the blade again, and I can see very clearly the springs through the holes, and it's nicely aligned. And I'm just going to grab my screws, starting with the long center. Take a quick peek. Make sure that you're pretty close and you can see that spring. And then, slowly feed that in. It's pretty tricky. I mean, luckily I caught the threads here just right, so I don't have to make a fool of myself and sit here for 20 minutes, make you watch me. So that one, luckily, it went in nicely. They don't always go in so easily. And I'll start with the next one. You're gonna have to pull up a little bit with your left hand to get that spring, some tension on the spring, and get the bracket close enough, because these screws are pretty short. The two front ones are only about 1 inch long, and you don't want to drop them into the couch crevice, by the way. So that's the one that's pretty tight enough for now. I'm just gonna finger tighten these things, and then we're going to come back. All right, so that's pretty much set. It's not going anywhere. Voila. Now before I put the bobbin on and get everything set up, what I would normally do is plug it in, check for some live signal. You never know if through this process you've messed up the connection. And what you don't want to do is to spend the next 30 minutes getting pots all set again, getting the tail jack set, putting the bobbin nicely on top, and then go strings on, go to play the thing, and you've got no sound. So I always like to check along the way. So I would check it now. I'm gonna pause the video and then get all the pots and everything back in place. Remember, it's not difficult. I'm gonna secure my bobbin once again. You saw that I already had this threaded through. So now look at that. Pulls right through for the first pot. Obviously you're gonna have to put your washer first on the end of the tube. And then your nut. And let it fall. I wouldn't let it fall, kind of guide it down. So there we go with the first one. And once you have the first one in, just do it again, finger tight. Pull that tube off. And then it's pretty easy just to use, actually sometimes I even use a chopstick to go in there and feed the second pot up through this hole. I won't do that now and take your time, but it's obvious you've probably done that before. So once that's set, the jack is all replaced and we've retightened the screw on the end. You're gonna have the tail piece already set to go, right? Because you want to check the signal. So I screw that back on, and then the key to all this and the purpose of this video is to show how to rethread this Charlie Christian bobbin. So get that ready to go. Again, assuming I've already put both pots in place, tested the signal, it's good to go. And now I'm going to make sure you've got two wires here, the lead and the ground. The lead being closest to the center and the ground is the other. And when you put this over on top of the bobbin, you want to make sure that this is facing, the lead wire is face the headstock so it doesn't get wrapped up and tangled. And then just put the bobbin basically on one side at a time. And then just kind of gently slide it back on there. And there we go. Now, this is when you can start getting your screwdriver out and then getting the proper orientation and height. And as I said before, you want to just kind of eyeball it at first. Make sure that the bobbin is about flush with the top of the fretboard. And then go with strings, put them back on, and then slowly adjust. So you definitely want to have, in my case here with this very flush guitar, a little bit of protrusion of the bobbin from the soundboard, and that will give us about 1.5 millimeters of space between the strings and the blade when you're playing above the 12th fret, which not many of us do, let's be honest, on this type of a guitar. But in any case, that is the removal and reinstallation of Charlie Christian. You can then adjust these so it's the proper angle of the bobbin, height of the bobbin, and you'll be good to go. So a bit longer video than I thought I would put on here though, because people had asked for the reinstall process. Hope you enjoyed it. I'll have another video coming up soon, and for now, take care and be safe.